All right, so human-centered design, applying STEM concepts and design thinking. And when we talk about design thinking here, we'll get into exactly what we mean, but also last professional development session, a good point was, some students do things when they tinker, when they build things, when they're creative, done it when they were kids, probably if they build like forts or a castle or something like that, they were applying design concepts. They might not call them design thinking, design concepts, or design skills, but those are certain things that are important to design. So it's important to let students know that they may already be doing these and using them. They just might not be doing them by applying STEM concepts, at least not explicitly. So again, my name is Adam Talamantis. I'll be leading this session. And Emily, do you want to introduce yourself and say hi and let them know what you'll be covering?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Emily Nicholson. I'm one of the coordinators here in pre-college programs. And so today I will be working you through a backpack, build a backpack example.
Awesome. All right, and so this program is related to our funding in the sense of the Lemelson Foundation. Usually this time of year, we are preparing for, you see them at the bottom right, in-person camps that travel throughout Ural, Oregon and engage middle school youth. We're moving those models online in a virtual one. You keep checking back at pre-college on our Facebook page or on our webpage, you'll definitely see that. We'll also be doing some future in-person workshops, we hope. So we have tested this a lot and we've done it in a field. And one of the main findings we find is that youth is interested in human-centered design. They just might not be exactly sure or confident in what you're asking them to do. But then when they're done with it, they feel significantly better. So we found really good results with our populations that we work with and kind of building their self-efficacy around design thinking. So here in our outline, we're going to go over connections, distance for all. We're going to go over inventing in a health crisis and how that could be used as a hook to bring students kind of into this human-centered design. We're going to go over the what is human-centered design kind of example while we do that. We're going to have a breakout focusing on the backpacks. And then we're going to do a review of some resources. And again, if you're really interested in this, Jay Well, who is in the chat, works with Teacher Professional Development as part of SMILE. So there is opportunities for an in-person workshop later if you would like to follow up on this. All right, so teacher-led activities, really for us, we're going to be looking at engineering, claims evidence, aligning with K-12 standards, and human-centered design. Since you are applying STEM knowledge, it is really an interdisciplinary approach and practical approach to learning and applying STEM. There's going to be independent research involved, interviewing a family member, maybe, depending on who they pick as their user, drawing and creating, critical reading, depending on what kind of information they collect from their user, and evaluating, explaining, and creating solutions. And that is plural. So we expect students to come up with many different kinds of solutions, but they may only pursue one, and we want to know why. And that gets us back to that claims evidence talk. All right, and then also, as always, nutrition and wellness is important where students are home. So building opportunities where they can be active, whether through testing, applying, prototyping, or maybe if your facility in this human-centered design, since it does revolve around a user, if you could do no contact drop-off, if they're close in their areas where they may know where someone is, you could walk over, put it down, walk out, and then someone could kind of interact with them and give them feedback, perhaps. So thinking outside of the box is how can we promote that engagement between the user and the designer in these activities. All right, so inventing in a health crisis. There's a research document by Doug Scott that looks at inventing for the smallest of us. So it's a story, very current story with COVID-19 about 3D printing of very small face shields. And then also on the right, this is from Jason King in 2014 with the Ebola, and they developed kind of a substance, you see it there on the floor in the picture, that would change colors once it was applied for a certain amount of time. So it'd be kind of a visual indicator for knowing when it had actually been disinfected and what areas were disinfected. So these are the kind of inventions that people come up with during a health crisis. Also, Rory Cooper there at the bottom, there's a resource there. He works at the University of Pittsburgh. He's a career scientist for the Department of Veteran Affairs, and he's developed tons of inventions that enhance the quality of life of veterans and folks with disabilities. And so there's a really powerful story there with Rory Cooper. He also developed something called a new wheelchair, a PNH, and it's powered by air. And it was specifically designed so folks could have a wheelchair access while at water parks. So it wasn't a motor, it could charge quickly, and they could go and explore things that everyone should have access to. So Rory Cooper is an excellent example. All right, so third thing we want to premise to students is invention is a dynamic process. So there's usually a user, there's an inventor, there's an idea, there's this innovation process over the time, that product may have innovated over time. And then there's the now that we experience whatever that product is or our reality is. So there's changes in societal needs and wants, popular culture you can think of music and art, how there's kind of emerging technology that's moved those along throughout the years. And then there's the advances in science and engineering that result in new technologies. A musical example could be like the synthesizer. Pre-synthesizer, you just never heard that sound. Post-synthesizer, we hear it almost in every song. So that's kind of an example of something that's really generally changed through innovation and change over time that students might not think of, but every time they listen to a song, they definitely are experiencing that in the now. All right, so human-centered design thinking. It expands on the engineering cycle in kind of two key areas. The first one I would say is empathize, because usually in a design standard engineering, it starts with that ask. So you are just kind of getting the problem, you're kind of just thinking about it. Here, there's that explicit connection to who is the audience, who is the user. And also, this expands on the engineering design cycle, the traditional more sorts, also by the test. So test ideas and gain user feedback, but test also means in kind of an innovation framework, an invention framework, is that you're taking the product to market. So you can also think about what would other people want? Is this product sellable beyond this? How can I market this? Is there some sort of pitch that could come up with this? Can I scale it up, scale it down, improving on existing technology, or is this my own idea? So there's really awesome ways you could take this with the test. It also, because of the social emotional engagement, it brings in other skills. So a part of this kind of design process is always fact checking yourself with the user. So it builds in that social emotional connection that may not be present in a traditional kind of engineering design process. All right. And while we're presenting these process in kind of a tile step by step, we are presenting them, it can be presented iteratively. So that is something that is also important, is that, you will be moving from step to step kind of simultaneously, but as a teacher, as a facilitator, sometimes it's nice to get students to pause and think about, how am I really using empathy right now? How am I really using define right now? Ideate, like, let's think deeply about creativity and brainstorming here to help highlight those for students and student learners. All right, so reply in chat if you can. I would like everyone to participate here. So who is a user? This is the play on the think, pair, share, think, chat, share. So who is a user that your students, your learners at home, who do they have access to? Is it someone in their community? Maybe of a really good online trove of resources that perhaps have some sort of interviews. In the camp that I mentioned before, iInvent, their users were college students. So take a minute, think and share. Who could the users for those students be? So Ken asked a question about now or in the past. So you would like them to have access to the now, but I put past experiences of there because students may have, you could do these with the case studies where they don't know directly that person. Or perhaps you could have like a case study video. So they're kind of working through it that way. So it's kind of been done a few different ways. Okay, so part-time jobs, community leaders. Jake brings a really interesting point there that, yeah, it could be someone who's already situated in their real life. Or it could be more of a engineering processes thing, such as maybe something related to those communities and business leaders. Teachers, yep. Yeah, I mean, you could have them help you to develop something that you need right now. Sports coaches, yep. And I also think kind of like non-traditional things. So siblings, cousins, grandparents, people that they can Skype with. You could always pair them up with a friend in the classroom and have the friend think about that if they're comfortable talking on the phone with them and just kind of see what comes out. You could even pre-premise that a little bit. All right, let's move on. All right. Oh, makers and innovation lab, sports coach, youth program leaders, definitely. So we're going to start off with the user in this activity, looking at masks. So in the personal protective masks, this is kind of an activity. There's resources in there. There's a video that supports that. It's the Jerome Adams, the US Surgeon General ones. So what would some people ask? So that user for the mask, I'm sure everyone here has kind of used one of these recently, I bet. All right, so empathy. Who will use the mask and what do they care about? So imagine asking yourself here, what do you expect you, if you were going to build a mask for yourself to care about, and put that in chat? This is that empathy one. This can be done maybe through interviewing someone else, but what do you expect? I know for one thing that I want is, I'm putting in the chat right now, breathability and sound, comfort. I noticed I was walking with my toddler around the neighborhood, and I was like, hey, stop. And I couldn't tell if he heard me. Jake's is orange and black, go Beavers, excellent. So breathability, sound, all right. Those are some things that students could come up with. And on the right side of the screen, you could see how they could gain that style. Yeah, you got the picture of the kind of the clown, kind of scary ones that are over here on this one. Easy to clean, yeah, easy to disinfect too. All right, mine has cats on it. Oh, that's cool. All right, and now in the define stage. So what is that problem? We talked a lot about fashion, but let's unpack that. Am I more concerned about fashion, comfort, easy to put on, or am I more concerned about safety? That's going to be user dependent. Maybe it's dependent on how often I actually go out. Maybe I don't go out at all. I use delivery. That's kind of, I'm just really hunkered down right now. So I maybe want a more breathable material because I'm usually going out to enjoy my walk and then I'm going back in. So here's a chart where you could see that. So what are people thinking about? If you had to rate your top three, what order would they be in? You know, comfort, breathability, or safety? What are we thinking about? Let's try to see if we can define this. Safety, okay, okay. I'm putting comfort a little bit for me because I know if it's not comfortable, I just won't wear it and then I won't be being safe. Safety, breathability, then comfort, safety, reusable comfort. Okay, so Ken and Jake both added a little bit of a spin on there, and then we got reusable in there. So these are things that are fun to rank. These could be user ranks. You could change it like that. And all right. Yeah, minimize excuses not to wear. So if it's like, yeah, if I'm worried if I can clean it, reusable. So that could be actually something to think about. Oh, all right. And now we're into the ideate stage. So we kind of defined our mask or the users who we want, some builds there. Now it'll be time for us to radically think about it. So you might have students gather some supplies they may think they're used from the Jerome Adams video. Those are things such as rubber bands, a t-shirt, I think in one of it, and they kind of go around, they go over the ear. And so now in this ideate stage, we want students to think about, does it have to be a mask as we know it? Can it be some kind of other mask? And so what's helpful in this activity is to get students using creativity exercises and then coming back to that question. So right here, you see the thing that I'm gonna take one, I'm gonna say that's a baton from like a drum major baton in front of the band. So type as quickly as you can in the chat, what are all the things that thing could be? I stole one, I put baton, but what else could it be? And just try to chat and see who is all there. Go right ahead. Baymax for Big Hero 6. Yeah, he could inflate. Okay, I see. Oh, his face. If you put a circle around it. Yeah, I see that. It could be just his face. Excellent. I thought of a dumbbell. Yep. Glasses. Okay, glasses. What else could it be? Oh, I'm thinking of resistance bands. Those circles could be handles. A Q-tip. Okay, excellent. And then now if we went back to that question of, okay, so how can I change up this mask? We could think about what is a piece that I could substitute or combine? What are things that I could adapt, modify? A closed math equation? Hook to a hat? Okay, I see those ideas are now flowing really good. So that's that kind of thinking is, you know, now you can go back, you can use a tool and think about, okay, here's the materials that I could make a mask out of. What could I use? For example, I have a pillow. It's a pretty good thin right here. So maybe I have an old pillowcase that I could use that has some good breathable material. And then I could maybe find a tag that'll tell me what it's made out of. So I can at least have a general idea of safety. So there's other things maybe you could repurpose. My wife would probably hate if I just cut a hole in that pillow. But so those are the kind of thinkings of what else could this be besides a t-shirt that was in this example. Or perhaps the students do have something where they could make a face shield. So maybe they chose a completely different design. All right, now moving on, we would be in the prototype stage. So we would want students to kind of experiment now, building it and putting it on and seeing how it feels and kind of revisiting them. So this is how I built it, this is how it feels. What were those ones that you ranked that you really wanted? What else could it be? So you're kind of going back and forth again to that user. What do they really want? And here, what I like to stress with students is fail fast, learn fast, because there's really no wrong answer coming out of that ideate stage. You should have that variety of, there's a lot of ways I could do this. Let's see which one I'm going to settle on. So by failing fast and learning fast, you're kind of eliminating, what ideas are not viable and what ideas are viable. So that's important there. And then with the test one. So in the test one, you may ask students with a mask to go walk around their neighborhood and see how it went. One thing that I noticed with wearing a mask is how much I miss social interaction. I'm the kind of person who make eye contact and nod to people as I walk down the street. I'm kind of a small community here, especially with everyone just walking up in there. But if I'm wearing a mask, they can't see me. And now someone designed a mask for a completely different need. So Ashley Lawrence for the deaf community to help folks read lips that are in a mask because they can't communicate because all that, half of our ability to interpret someone's face is gone. And so if you were someone who read lips, that would be really, it'd be a huge hindrance. So thinking about that, how else can we design it particularly for users' needs? While I'm not someone of the deaf community, I would still like a mask like that so I could look at people and smile. That's something that I miss. So thinking about that, and that gives us the test run. So they would go out, they document their thinking and think of how it did. And now if you were, say, doing that no contact drop off, what you could do is have that one student then call them and report how did their design go. Or they could do a video blog if you're in a community that has access to that and they could post up and see it. So it's a really good way to build community and build the social emotional engagement. And one of the key features we kind of got out of those IN event camps, and every time we've done this, is students, they feel empowered by the idea that they could make up something in their head that would actually improve someone else's lives. And that kind of goes back to that human-centered design, building beyond the traditional engineering cycle in the sense of who that user is, all the way to the test where you get to see them enjoy it and kind of interact with it. So it expands on that engineering design cycle. I make an argument in some of the materials that we have that you can kind of build on any engineering, like the classic, one of the examples that we have is build a confetti maker. So you could stop students and ask them, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? How are we brainstorming what our confetti popper could be? And so thinking about that and using those activities as the jumping off point for human-centered design is really powerful for students. All right. Breakout time. So I believe I will be transitioning now to Emily for the breakouts, and I'll be coming back online for the summary part. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. So we are actually just going to stay in one big group, but if you want to go to the next slide, I will kind of walk you through what is going to happen with some slight adjustments. So if we were going to break out, we'd have a little bit less time. So we'll have more time to do this. But what we're going to do is this part is going to be pretty interactive. So if you would like, I encourage you to go ahead and turn your cameras on so we can kind of see who is going to be talking. So let's see, Susan. Excellent. Hi, Jake. So we are going to go around it first and have everyone introduce themselves, your name, the grade you teach, the school, kind of where that school is. And then if you want to share your favorite inventions, since we're talking about inventions. So I will go first. As Adam said, my name is Emily Nicholson. I'm a program coordinator at Oregon State University. My main job is to do campus field trips to campus. My favorite invention would probably have to be blue jeans because I love them so much. So I'll go ahead and call on people to make it a little bit simpler. Jay, would you like to start?
My name is Jay Well. I work for pre-college programs in Smile. And let's see, a favorite invention of mine would have to be, I don't know, I've been drinking a lot of SodaStream water. And so I like the idea of carbonating my own water at the moment.
Excellent. Susan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan, and I work for pre-college programs in Smile as well, but I was a science teacher in Brazil and an educator here before I got into at OSU. I guess my favorite invention, really relatable, is the internet, and maybe a love and hate relationship with Zoom right now, but thankful that it exists.
Thank you. Ken?
Hi, I'm Ken Guffey. I teach 6th grade STEAM, 8th grade STEAM, and 8th grade science. And I've taken the tours with Emily, with a handful of my students for a number of years. And my favorite invention is probably the cell phone. Remember, I grew up with one on the wall that you'd see the sparks flying when you'd occasionally. And so it's, but it's also a curse at times, I think.
I think most of the things that we're mentioning are both have made our lives easier and more difficult at the same time.
And like I heard earlier, the Zoom, I have a love-hate relationship with week 3, and it's like, anyway.
Yeah, I think we would all agree with that one. Definitely. Adam.
All right. So I work at pre-college programs. I do summer camps, events. I also do teacher professional development around STEM after-school programming. And my background is in kind of free choice learning, informal science ed. And my favorite invention would have to be, I don't know, video games. They're pretty fun. It's kind of a good way to escape. I noticed online, I've been seeing a bunch of people playing Animal Crossing, which I guess is a genre of games where you just kind of garden and then you invite people over and trade them your crops. And that is the whole game. Sounds relaxing.
Funny.
Excellent. Jake?
I'm the science teacher at Gold Beach High School down on the Southern Oregon coast. My favorite invention, it's really hard to define. I guess possibly computers, just where they've gone with them and then everything that they apply to.
Excellent. Nice. And Sue-Ann.
Hi, I'm Sue-Ann. I'm the director of pre-college programs and a former classroom science teacher. I taught in rural Eastern Oregon. I was always the science department. So I can realize, so when people ask me what I taught, I go, science. Whatever it is you wanted, that's what I taught. I was thinking the same invention, the computer, which has really evolved a great deal since in the last 20 years, but I was thinking when I first had I was taking a class I had been working for a number of years, and all of the students in the class had computers when they were in high school. And when I was in high school, a small computer had not yet been invented. So I think it's a love-hate relationship though. But my other favorite one would be an espresso coffee maker.
Ooh, yes. Excellent. So I think that was everyone. If not, let me know, and I'd be happy to have you share. So in this example, we're going to be talking about designing a backpack. So we're going to start with kind of step 0, which is kind of that inspirational initial thoughts that you have. So I'm sure all of you have used a backpack. You all have thoughts on how it could be better. And we are going to be using some pen and paper for this one. So I will give you about 1.5 minutes to collect paper and pen if you need it. And then think about kind of the ways that you would improve a backpack if you were the user. Later, we're going to get into a different user. Sue-Ann is going to be our user today. But before we talk to the user, some initial thoughts, some paper and a pen or a pencil, and then think about those ways that backpack could be improved, either listing those out or drawing them. And 1.5 minutes starting now. All right, so if we wanted to kind of share some of those initial thoughts on improving backpacks in the chat. We'll kind of go through a couple of those and share those. My initial ones were outside pockets, very easy, accessible things. Adjust to body shapes, excellent thought, Susan. Extra dimensional space, lighter, less expensive, more durable, outside pockets, compartments. Yeah, brilliant. So these are all obviously that like a TARDIS from Doctor Who. I like it. So these are initial, but the next stage we want to do is really think about our user, who is going to be Sue-Ann. Sue-Ann Bottoms, the director of pre-college programs. So Sue-Ann, if you would like to kind of introduce yourself and how you use a backpack, and then we are going to open it up to everyone to ask questions to get at kind of what Sue-Ann's wants and needs are. So that could be basically what are your wants and needs, but then getting those clarifying questions too, really getting to understand what Sue-Ann needs and what Sue-Ann wants out of a backpack. So Sue-Ann, if you want to kind of give us the rundown, really simple overview of how you use backpacks, that'll give us a good starting spot.
Well, I don't know if you can see it, but this is, can you see this? It's kind of, I'm flipping in and out, but this is the backpack that I carry to back and forth to work. And I like to walk to work, which is about 2.5 miles one way. But in January, this past January, I had shoulder surgery. So the backpack does not feel really comfortable on my shoulder. And I have a wheeling backpack, which is not very convenient to drag for 2.5 miles. So I need something that is, will be able to carry my computer, and I can carry my umbrella in the side pocket and my water, but also is easy on my shoulders.
Excellent. So now we basically open it up. Anyone with questions, want to ask Sue-Ann questions about clarifying exactly what she needs, would be great. You can either go ahead and unmute and ask her, or you can ask them in chat, and I'll make sure that she sees those.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with your backpack when you're not using it?
I throw it in the corner. When I come to work, I sit the backpack in the chair in my office, and I have things in it, like I have my purse in it. And then I have all the electronic stuff in my computer, but it's mostly, and I carry my lunch in it too. So it just sits in the chair, and then when I come home at night, it sits in a corner somewhere.
Excellent. So Ken asked, what do you carry? And you had mentioned backpack or your lunch and your computer, but what else?
So on the side, I always have an umbrella on the side, and then a water bottle on the other side. So I like that. My phone, which I'm always losing because it's packed, because it goes in, like that's where I put compartments. My phone goes in there, and then I have 30 seconds or more of like utter panic because I can't find it. I also carry a rain poncho in there. This is where I live. And sometimes I carry gym clothes in it. Sometimes I probably have too much in it. Oh, and I might have some books or paperwork that I need that I'm taking back and forth to work, because just like all educators, the day blurs into, even not way blurrier now because I'm not going anywhere, but was blurry before, bring work home, take work back.
Jay asked, what size backpack do you need?
I don't want it too big. Just so what it, Well, Jay said if I didn't have my fancy background, my virtual background, you could see my backpack easier, but now I don't know if I can change the background right now. But, just a regular, I don't want a huge backpack. I don't want it to be too heavy because that also hurts my shoulder.
Swan.
Yeah.
Which shoulder is that you have a problem? Is it both?
My left, my left shoulder. And my walk is about 2.5 miles one way. And so I walk back and forth, and so I have to have all the lunch in my computer because I carry my computer back and forth. But but I don't want it to be too heavy either. I sort of feel like the three bear, you know, Goldilocks. I just want it to be just right.
Would you prefer breathable fabric or waterproof fabric?
Again, probably again. Well, water. Well, good question. Because I could put. I have a poncho that I carry too, because I can put that over the backpack. But I think this one. I think this one is water resistant, but not waterproof. That I have. So I don't want my computer to get wet. So it could.
Okay.
The computer could have like a special. In this backpack that I have, the computer has a special section. But it's also the one that, yeah, and it faces, it's towards my back. So the rest of the backpack would get wet before the computer would. So I'd want the computer protected.
Excellent. Are you opposed to owning more than one backpack or a duck cover?
I have multiple backpacks because sometimes they do get wet and they don't dry out by the next day. And what is a duck cover?
Adam, do you want to describe what a duck cover is?
It's like a plastic cover for your backpack that has a cinch on it. So it's basically a trash bag for your backpack that you just cinch and then it clamps together.
It would probably be better than my big poncho that I put on, which I tend to not put on because it's too much work. So that might be a good idea.
Okay. And then would one shoulder messenger bag, how would you feel about one of those if it went one shoulder versus two?
Yeah, but then I feel like what I worry about with that is that if it's only one shoulder, then I put all the weight on the other shoulder and then I'll have to have surgery on the other shoulder. I'll get balanced.
Excellent. So balanced backpacks. So we are going to move to the next stage. We kind of have a good idea about Sue Ann's wants and needs, but now we are going to kind of define them. We're going to list them out in bullet points. What exactly are Sue Ann's wants and needs? So you're going to have 30 seconds to think kind of individually, list out what are the constraints and her wants that we're going to talk about. So 30 seconds by yourself, and then we'll have about a minute and a half to talk as a group. So 30 seconds starting now. All right. So if you want to share in chat or aloud, kind of what were the key takeaways that you came up with? So we have balanced, waterproof for the laptop section, light as in weight, have spaces for water or umbrella, multiple items, definitely. Something convertible. So sounds like there's a lot to carry to and from home, but less when walking around campus. So a question Jay has, could we have a traditional rolling backpack that converts to a balanced hip pack? Definitely adjustable, Sue Ann says. Safety at night, Adam was thinking. So that's a question that we could go back to our user and ask a little bit later. Special compartment for her phone, yes. Ken had attached to that story about putting your phone in a backpack and then forgetting where it is and losing it. And I think we've all been there. Maybe something vacuum sealed, compartment for lunch, definitely. Okay, so we have a pretty good list of what kind of Sue Ann needs, and some ideas from the next stage were in this define stage that we were working on, which is the nature of human-centered design, right? So while we were defining what she needs, we were also kind of brainstorming ideas. I know Jay had said one. So with that list of needs and wants, we're gonna move to the next stage, which is ideate. So this is when we're brainstorming ideas of what it might look like. So we're gonna have, again, 30 seconds to kind of think of ways we can design this backpack and make it what she needs. And then a minute or so to kind of share those ideas aloud. So for instance, Jay had said a converting backpack that was rolling, but then it converts into, you know, a hip pack during the day. So about 30 seconds to think, and then we're gonna share. All right, so if anyone has any ideas, now this is definitely a brainstorming stage, so it doesn't have to be the final one you go with, but it's just kind of throwing out ideas, anything you think might work. So Dominique had mentioned that maybe something with a vacuum seal to make sure that it's nice and clean and dry. Adam says maybe a sternum strap, a top or bottom. They detach. Add some light overnight support features. Jay's thinking something larger for the 2-mile walk, something smaller around campus. A motorized rolling backpack, definitely. Attach at the waist to help distribute the weight. Dominique mentioned, definitely. Jay had also said multiple uses for activities, so the computer workout lunch. Yep. Any other ideas? Okay, so now that we have talked to Sue Ann, figured out what she needs, come up with some ideas, we are going to prototype. And since we can't, Ken mentioned maybe some special gel-filled straps, extra detachable bag for gym clothes, excellent ideas. So we're going to prototype it, and this would be the stage where you actually build it, and it's hard for us to do in about 5 minutes. So instead of building it, we're going to draw it. So you are going to have 3 or 4 minutes to give us as much detail in your drawing as possible. So what's the size? What is it made out of? How many compartments does it have? What is each compartment intended for? So you are going to have about 3 minutes to work independently, and then we're going to have several minutes after that to kind of go around the room and share. So 2 minutes, 3 minutes, starting now to kind of draw what your backpack would look like.
And then just to add on while we're drawing there, prototyping for students can also, we can look at certain parts of the overall backpack that we might want to really dig into and prototype. So it could be the whole thing, or it could also be parts and smaller parts. One thing I know, I see students' interest in the gel idea. So maybe students want to experiment with different straps or strap materials when they get really into it, or like where to hang weight from. So where to hang. So get down what you would want to prototype, and then we will be coming back here for that share out. All right.
Excellent. Okay. So now that we each have a prototype, we are going to take some time to share them and then ask the user how they like it and any changes that they might want to use. In respecting our time, however, we're not going to go through every single one of them. So if someone does have one that they would really like to share, we would love to hear it, hear Sue Ann's thoughts about it. So does anyone in particular want to share?
I can share.
Excellent. Thanks, Susan.
Oh, wait. I'm not the best drawer, so ignore the poor drawing. But I focused on the one piece of the backpack, like Adam suggests, and thought about making the straps with this fillable, blowing, kind of like a vest, so you can fill it out and adjust depending what is inside the backpack at that time and make it more comfortable.
Excellent.
Well, I like that idea. I think it was it Jake that talked about the gel no, Ken, somebody talked about the gel. But I was thinking when you were talking about putting the air in there, because one of the things through my surgery is I became really good friends with my ice machine. So if you had the gel pack that could get cool, could keep that gel, like in that there, you could put something in it, could maybe take it off and put it on. It'd get cold in the day, and then you go home at the end of the night with the gelled ice pack on your shoulder as I'm walking.
Excellent. Ken, you turned your camera on. Did you want to share?
Yeah, why not? So I actually grabbed a couple bags of mine and put a lot of thoughts together. And like the young lady, I'm not the best drawer, so I did. I thought about putting the computer in the center of the bag. Actually flexed one of mine one time. I overpacked my back. And then I ride a motorcycle back and forth to work as often as I can. And rather than strapping it on, I don't have bags and stuff. So I just throw everything on my back. So it would have, nice padding and stuff in the middle to protect it. The computer, the gels on there was nice. And I grabbed this. And one thing that I thought that you might like, because you mentioned that phone, having the phone actually be part of the strap here, so it's also really accessible. Sometimes I'm in the middle and it's like, oh, my phone's in the back, and I
Yeah.
off, and I know it's probably an IEP number I'm late for, a meeting I'm late for, and I want to say, hey, I'm running late, I'll be there in a minute or something. So I just thought that. Had all of your stuff under. I still like the idea of the detachable bottom.
Mm.
To run a little bit periodically at work or walk the track, and I like it. I'll detach the bottom of it and I'll throw it in a corner. Some days, you know, if I'm not doing it, I don't have to pack that down, things like that. So that was my idea.
Nice.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
I like the thing in the middle. I do worry about that, especially when I cram, like if I have extra work that I'm bringing home, I'm always worried, like, am I going to damage the computer? You know, 'cause
Right.
that's kind of and then the phone, it's like frequently I'm walking, I have to stop, take my backpack off and figure, where the heck is that phone? It's in there somewhere. And it's like, the backpack isn't that big, but the phone can disappear. So having the phone, like when I'm walking, I could, you know, have my ear. I talk to my sister a lot when I'm walking home too. So that would be convenient.
Perfect. So Adam, if you would want to go to the next slide, it has those 3 questions, just a little bit bigger. So we have about 5 minutes to do this, and then a few minutes to wrap up and answer questions that you may have. So my first question to you, and you can either say it out loud or in the chat, what were your initial thoughts on the activity, and how, what challenges do you see your students might have? And we can brainstorm solutions for those.
I don't know if they, I'm sorry, you were going to talk.
You're fine, go ahead.
I've been using the design process for quite some time, and once you do have that empathy part, you know, once students see that, I think they design, when they're designing with someone or a problem in mind, it works better for me. I get better buy-in from the students. So even me, and of course, don't take this personal. Do you go by Suzanne? Suanne. I could relate, because I have, you know, when I was listening to you, I have those issues also. I put them together, and sometimes I come home and it doesn't get unpacked. Other times it ends up all over the table, and and I'm running late, and so I could understand some of the issues that you were going through, which helped me with the design, and why I thought, oh, I need to do this for myself, figure out how to get a phone up here, or how to make colors better when I'm riding the bike or something like that.
So that brings up another fact that I was thinking about, is thinking about how our inspiration, kind of the ideas that you had to improve backpacks, and how those might differ from the user experience that we're talking about. So my needs, I haven't had shoulder surgery. My needs are obviously different than Sue-Ann's. So trying to focus on kind of that user. And if you're the user, great. But keeping in mind what the user wants, not necessarily what you want. Dominique mentioned one challenge might be getting started. So hearing others' responses helped with creative juices. So if you could help those students collaborate and talk about their projects, that might help with those. Adam says risk that comes with creativity or improv activities. Yeah, definitely. So there are some students who are naturally extremely creative and other students who have a difficult time with that. So hopefully if you're able to kind of have them discuss, it'll help those that have a harder time you know, coming up with new ideas to do that.
Yeah, and the risk part, at camp, we had students do like acting, like 2 truths and a lie kind of acting, or like I'm a tree, and then someone's like, I'm a bush, someone's like, I'm barbecuing, and you kind of build this scene. And students, if they weren't comfortable with each other right away and socially, like we wouldn't do that on day 1, we'd have to do team building. So just sometimes it takes team building to engage in those socially creative games that can really help your design.
Definitely. Jay had mentioned showing examples or telling stories about invention can help students get going as well. So definitely some options there. And then we'll go ahead and skip that last question in respect of our time. So Adam, if you want to move ahead, it's all yours.
So here, here's a little different framework. This was developed by an innovator. And so this one just shows kind of the interconnections. It's the infinity sign, because you notice while we were in each stage, even prototyping, oh, I don't want to go back and see these. Like, would the user prefer we gave them a backpack that could do like everything they want, or one that's adjustable? Or maybe it's like a set of 4 different interchangeable pieces that can do what they want. Then they're like, that just seems like too much for me. You know, just go with one. So it's always kind of blending into each other how these repeat. Also, one thing here is if you do choose to tease out like the ideate, the prototype, and do a kind of a challenge and pause there, one good thing is to adapt kind of existing engineering design activities. So here's some links that I'll get to, and let me just pull it up right here. So as I mentioned earlier, we are funded in part through the Lemelson Foundation. They also fund PBS Design Squad. Here you'll see kind of the traditional kind of their version of the engineering thing, but here is super helpful in that it comes with, you know, some of these excellent supports that are, let me get to it, not just activities you can adapt and change, but also a little bit of background on inventing, the inventing process, why invent, who are inventors. Then there's also through their resources examples of like 15-year-old inventors, 11-year-old inventors, and all of these activities too. Like for example, when I said earlier about the confetti, here's the confetti challenge that students have to do and make. You could pause here and say, so, you know, what is the problem we're defining? Okay, well, the problem was given to us in part of a challenge, and it said that that confetti must fly 2 meters. The base must be able to fit in a shoebox. All right, so that's that. Okay, what are we gonna do here to ideate? Well, this person's thinking a lever arm. Well, what are other ways we could get something that fits in a shoebox to the confetti? Does it have to be a launcher? Could we maybe fly it over in some way? So you can always take these activities and just reframe them just a little bit to tease out part of the design process. And this design squad is included in the session materials. It's their whole packet. Very useful. That was one thing I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted. Also in the packets from the teaching materials, there is kind of a Dominique Brooks and Suzanne were able to develop and format a human-centered design packet based on the D-School's human-centered design packet previously, and it can be used to fit kind of those general challenges or to be bridged out into the longer kind of 2-week, more longer intensive design processes. So what I'd recommend is, you know, going with that mask example, having them use the packet as support, and then seeing how interested they are if they want to then pair up with someone in the class. And then if they're interested in still in it after that, you can always select kind of a community group. For example, someone had mentioned that their students have jobs. So you could focus on a community issue, a business, and you could have your whole class work collectively towards one solution is something that's super cool. And yeah, and then Susan also brings out about the cultural backgrounds, different needs and wants, and expressing creativity. So based on who that user is, and that social emotional learning component, it does add up for it to be relevant and also responsive. Another tweak on this activity, there was redoing the gift giving experience that has a big cultural undertones. There's also been a twist on this activity that is redoing a welcoming tradition. So how does your class welcome each other is also, and you can talk about welcoming and how, you know, that is also shows sort of differently. For example, I would greet my grandparents different than I would greet a professor, probably. Unless, you know, certain situations, I guess I would greet them the same way. But yeah, so thinking about things like that is also awesome. And so lastly then, I will just bring it back to everyone and finish with these quick little resources here. These are ones for a snorkel mask. So this is one being repurposed right now as folks are reusing snorkel masks. So getting back to that human-centered design of the build a mask, like, does it have to be a mask as we know it? So think about things that they could adapt. The LinkedIn one is just about the framework of innovation. Ashley Lawrence was the inventor who changed it to add the visible mouths for the support deaf and hard of hearing. And then thank you. And so we'll open it up right now if you have any questions that you'd like to share. I believe we are just about 2 minutes to the hour. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be right here and be able to respond. You can also just type it in the chat. And to give you an idea of what's coming up further, the next session is an activity called Save the Soup, which is an engineering design challenge where students will kind of make a personal flotation device for a can of soup. It's one that most students will have materials for at home, we hope, and also it's the one that's easily adaptable for all ages. And that one's related to our regional class research vessel project that we work with here at Oregon State University. All right. Well, I guess if there is no more questions then, I'd like to thank the attendees. Oh, someone else?
I have one.
Oh, go right ahead. Awesome.
Can I steal this activity and put it on my website for the kids to do this week and my STEAM activities?
Yeah, so everything that we've gone through here that's exactly what we'd like you to do with it. And it's everything that we have is posted up on our webpage that you use to register. So all the supports, this PowerPoint will all be up there.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you don't mind, there's also a post survey that usually comes out, and you can let us know how it goes.
Okay. Well, we started a website called Catflix, and we're just putting a lot of activities and giving the kids kind of an opportunity to pick and choose. So I might not get a big, group involved in this, but there'll be a handful, I'm sure.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and it's so we're going to be running virtual camps for that iInvent this summer, and we're hoping to use college mentors as the student employees to kind of do a few invention innovation activities we have, and then have them do kind of those longer open-ended projects, but pair them up with a mentor and a cohort to kind of work through it with. So if you get any feedback on it, we'd like to know, and if you keep in touch, we'll give you something to send to your students about those summer camp opportunities. And yeah, all right, thank you very much and have a great day.